Do you remember the pints that used to feel like they'd always be there? The ones you'd spot on every bar, order without thinking, and share with the same faces week after week. Names like Boddington's or Double Diamond once carried whole nights on their shoulders, steady, tied to laughter, jukebox tunes, and the smell of a warm pub on a cold night. Then they quietly disappeared to never be seen again. And with them went a small piece of what made British pub life feel like home. And before we dive in, be honest. Which discontinued pint do you still wish you could taste one last time? Let us know in the comments. Starting with the most beloved. 20. Tetley's Bitter. Walk into any northern pub in the 1960s and you'd find Tetley's Bitter flowing like liquid tradition. Brewed in Leeds, it was the soul of Yorkshire in a glass, earthy, nutty, and with a bite that lingered. Men in flat caps nursed it after long shifts, while locals swore it tasted better closer to home. Its foam wasn't fancy, its glass wasn't polished, but the pint carried pride. In those days, you didn't ask what was on, you just said Tetley's and nodded. By the 1970s, it was everywhere, from the tap handles to the beer mats. Even now, older drinkers talk about it like an old friend who left without goodbye. It wasn't about flavour notes or pairing menus, it was about belonging. And the next pint carried that same sense of pride, just poured from a different city. 19. Boddington's Bitter. Manchester's Boddington's wasn't just a pint, it was identity in liquid form. Locals called it bodies, and everyone knew what you meant. The creamy head was unmistakable, thick enough to leave a moustache and memories behind. Dry, sharp, and proudly northern, it was the kind of beer you didn't sip, you respected it. Boddington's became known far beyond its city for that signature smoothness, the cream of Manchester. But its fame didn't come from ads alone, it came from loyalty. People argued over it, defended it, and sometimes even mocked it, but everyone remembered it. When you ordered a pint of Boddington's, you joined a club without initiation. It wasn't flashy, it was familiar, the kind of pint that lingered longer than the night. And just beyond Manchester, another brew was quietly earning its reputation. 18. Ruddles County. In the small county of Rutland, Ruddles County made noise loud enough to echo across Britain's pubs. At a time when fizzy keg beers threatened to take over, this real ale stood defiant. It was strong, slightly fruity, and had the kind of full-bodied character that demanded attention. Every glass poured felt like rebellion against the blandness creeping into the taps. Camera supporters hoisted their Ruddles like banners, proud to keep real ale alive. For many, it was more than a drink. It was a declaration that beer should taste of earth, hops, and craftsmanship, not carbon dioxide. You didn't just drink. Ruddles County, you made a statement with it. Even now, say the name, and older ale drinkers smile knowingly. It was the flavour of defiance served with a quiet nod. And while some pints were a protest, others were pure identity in a bottle. 17. Newcastle Brown Ale. Dark, malty and unapologetically northern, Newcastle Brown Ale, known simply as Dog, was a beer that told you exactly where you stood. You didn't drink it fast, you drank it properly. Born in the industrial heart of Tyneside, it was rich, strong, and instantly recognisable by its deep amber hue. In Newcastle, having a dog wasn't about getting drunk, it was about belonging. Its nickname came from that old excuse, off to see a man about a dog, and soon it became the beer that defined Geordie pride. Outsiders sometimes found it heavy, but locals knew better. It was warmth in a bottle. It carried stories, laughter, and long nights that ended in song. You could always spot a true northerner by the way they held that brown bottle. And as pubs filled with chatter, one golden pint soon stole the spotlight. 16. Double Diamond. Before craft beer menus and designer pumps, there was Double Diamond, a pint that worked wonders, or so the ad said. Its slogan filled the airwaves, and that jingle still hums in many heads today. Smooth, golden, and easygoing. It wasn't the most complex beer, but it didn't have to be. It was the everyman's drink, ordered by office blokes, factory workers, and anyone who wanted something familiar. The beer's popularity owed as much to clever marketing as to its taste, yet that didn't stop it from becoming a pub icon. Its logo hung proudly on mirrors behind the bar, glowing under nicotine-stained lights. Double Diamond represented a time when Britain's beers had personality, and pubs had character to match. And soon after, another name arrived that aimed to keep that steady hand on the tap. 15. Whitbread Trophy Bitter. By the time Whitbread Trophy Bitter hit its stride, it had already earned a reputation as the dependable pint. The pint that thinks it's a quart, the slogan joked, and it fit. Trophy wasn't the kind of beer people bragged about, but it never disappointed. It was the steady one on the bar, waiting for dart players, pool teams, and old mates meeting after work. Brewed by a company that knew pubs inside out, it poured clear, amber, and unpretentious. Its flavour wasn't flashy, but it carried that familiar English malt warmth with a quiet confidence. Whitbread pubs were everywhere in the 1970s, and Trophy became part of their identity, served under soft lights and chatter. It was the sort of pint that never needed defending, because it was simply part of life. But just as the steady favourites thrived, something flashier began bubbling up from behind the bar. 14. Worthington E. Worthington E arrived like a symbol of the modern age. Cold, fizzy, identical from one town to the next, it was beer designed for the future. Base pushed it hard, promising consistency and freshness, and pubs embraced it. Drinkers were split. Some called it progress, others called it soulless. It lacked the quirks of local brews, but that was its strength. It was predictable. The badge glowed bright red behind countless bars, a promise of the same taste no matter where you went. Younger crowds liked it for its easy, clean finish. Traditionalists muttered that it marked the death of real ale. Either way, Worthington E changed the pub landscape. It showed how industry could reshape taste and how nostalgia could start the very moment tradition was replaced. And while Worthington divided opinion, another northern favourite was quietly building an empire of its own. 13. John Smith's Bitter. John Smith's Bitter was comfort in a pint glass, smooth, malty and slightly sweet. It didn't chase trends, it just did its job perfectly. Brewed in Tadcaster, Yorkshire, it carried that no-nonsense northern attitude. Reliable, steady, never flashy. It was the pint your uncle swore by and the one your granddad probably introduced you to. By the 1970s, it had spread far beyond Yorkshire, becoming one of Britain's most trusted beers. Drinkers loved it for being honest. What you saw was what you got. Its creamy body and easy flavour made it a fixture in working men's clubs and small-town pubs alike. There was pride in ordering one, knowing it wouldn't let you down. It wasn't about excitement, it was about belonging. But further south, another name was calling drinkers to take courage, quite literally. 12. Courage. Best Bitter. Courage. Best Bitter was lighter on the palate and friendlier on the tongue. While the northern bitters were bold and earthy, Courage brought an easygoing southern charm. It was brewed for long evenings, where you could drink a few without falling off your stool. Ads urged everyone to take Courage, and plenty did. When Chaz and Dave sang their way through its commercials, it sealed the pint's place in British hearts. It was the kind of beer that didn't shout, it smiled. Pubs stocked it everywhere, knowing it was safe, familiar, and crowd-pleasing. You could find it poured across London and beyond, glowing softly under the bar light. It represented reliability, laughter, and the easy rhythm of a night well spent. And while Courage kept things calm, another pint was about to make patience an art form. 11. Guinness Draught. The pour alone was theatre. Guinness Draught wasn't just a beer, it was an experience. The slow cascade, the rich black body, and that creamy white head were unmistakable. Though Irish by birth, Guinness had become part of British pub life by the 60s and 70s. It wasn't for everyone, its roasted bitterness divided opinions, but those who loved it swore by it. Ordering one meant waiting. Watching the head settle became a ritual. You didn't rush a Guinness, you earned it. It was the pint for thinkers, storytellers, and anyone who appreciated something deeper. And once that first sip hit, smooth and complex, you understood the loyalty it inspired. In a world of fast pints, Guinness made people slow down and savour. But as patience met pride, one pint arrived that nearly tore the beer world apart. 10. Watney's Red Barrel. Watney's Red Barrel wasn't just a beer, it was a revolution in disguise. Marketed as clean, modern and reliable, it quickly became the face of keg beer in Britain. The bright red logo glowed from pub signs across the country, promising a new kind of pint, fizzy, consistent and fast to pour. But not everyone was impressed. Traditional drinkers found it bland, calling it beer without a soul. It became the symbol of everything real ale lovers hated, and their rebellion gave birth to Camera, the campaign for real ale. Yet for all its criticism, Red Barrel made history. Everyone remembered its taste, for better or worse, because everyone drank it. It was the beer you loved to hate, but one you could never ignore. And as the backlash brewed, another pint took a lighter, brighter approach to win the crowd. 9. Skol Lager. Skol arrived with a name that sounded foreign and exciting, even though it came from Burton-upon-Trent. Rebranded to feel continental, it became many Britain's first taste of pale, fizzy lager. It was light, crisp, and easy to drink, perfect for those who didn't want the heaviness of traditional bitters. By the mid-1960s, Skol held a fifth of the entire lager market. Posters showed smiling faces and sunlit beer gardens, making it feel modern, even sophisticated. It was the pint of summer afternoons and quick rounds with friends. Old-school ale fans might have grumbled, but younger drinkers loved its simplicity. Skol proved that beer didn't have to be complicated to win hearts. And soon another lager came along that aimed to outshine even Skol's easy charm. 8. Carling Black Label. Carling Black Label was the beer of the everyman, cheap, smooth, and everywhere. From smoky bars to football terraces, it became Britain's best-selling pint by the early 1970s. Its advertisements were cheeky and unforgettable, especially that iconic line, "I bet he drinks Carling Black Label." It didn't try to impress beer snobs, it spoke to regular folks who just wanted a pint that hit the spot. Easy drinking and mild, it became the soundtrack to countless Friday nights. Younger drinkers saw it as their first real pint, something they could afford and enjoy without fuss. Carling wasn't about sophistication, it was about simplicity done right. And that was its magic. But as Carling conquered the lagers, one dark and powerful stout stood in proud defiance. 7. Courage Russian Stout. Courage Russian Stout was the heavyweight of British brewing. Dark as ink, strong as memory, and full of character. It wasn't a beer for casual drinkers, it was one to be respected. Thick and velvety, it carried roasted malt flavours that lingered long after the glass was empty. Originally brewed for export to the Russian court, it found its way back into British pubs as a rare indulgence. You didn't drink it by the round, you savoured it slowly, maybe on a cold winter's night or as a treat after a long week. It was the kind of beer that felt like an occasion. Every pint was a reminder that British brewing could be bold, refined, and fearless. And from that deep, inky strength came another pint, simpler, lighter, but just as proud of its roots. 6. Webster's Pennine. Bitter Webster's Pennine Bitter was Yorkshire through and through, brewed with pride, advertised with cricket legend Fred Truman, and celebrated as the pint that drives out the northern thirst. It was a true regional favourite. Locals swore it tasted better in Yorkshire than anywhere else, and maybe they were right. It had a smooth bitterness and a subtle malt backbone that made it easy to love. Webster's wasn't flashy, and it never tried to be. It was honest beer, brewed for honest people, poured in pubs that smelled of wood smoke and Sunday roasts. Though it never conquered the country, it didn't need to. For those who knew it, Webster's was more than a drink. It was part of home. And while Yorkshire kept its pride, another round of pints began shaping the decades that followed. 5. Labatt's. Labatt's wasn't British by birth, but by the 1980s, it had become a familiar face in pubs up and down the country. The bright blue logo was plastered across racing cars, football shirts, and neon bar signs. Smooth, refreshing, and proudly Canadian, it offered something a little different from the usual fare. Labatt's was clean, crisp, and brewed for the modern drinker, one who wanted an easy lager without the fuss. Its sponsorships gave it glamour, from touring cars to the terraces of Nottingham Forest, but like many imports, it faded quietly as breweries merged and priorities shifted. Still, for those who remember it, the nostalgia is real. There's a fondness in the way people recall its taste, the fizz, and even the adverts. But as one foreign favourite disappeared, another new name emerged from closer to home, backed by brewing giants. 4. Hop House 13. When Guinness decided to make a lager, people didn't know what to expect. The result, Hop House 13, surprised everyone. Born from the Brewers Project in Dublin, it combined the crispness of lager with a subtle malt depth, a nod to Guinness's stout roots. It launched with energy, sleek branding, and quality glassware that made it feel special. For a few years, it was everywhere, from city bars to countryside pubs. But the pandemic halted its rise, and by 2021, it was pulled from UK taps. Fans were gutted. Hop House 13 had been that rare mix of smooth, modern, and genuinely good. It was proof that innovation could work until business realities said otherwise. Still, those who tried it remember its easy drinkability and quiet sophistication. And while Guinness was experimenting, another lager was proving that bold Aussie marketing could sell almost anything. 3. Castlemaine XXXX. Australians wouldn't give an XXX for anything else. That line alone turned Castlemaine XXXX into a legend. Imported from down under, it arrived with swagger and a cheeky grin. At just 3.7%, it wasn't a heavy hitter, but it nailed the easygoing vibe that made it so likeable. Its ads were iconic, sun-drenched, irreverent, and full of charm. For decades, it held its place in pubs across Britain, brewed under license and loved by many. Then, like so many greats, it quietly vanished when big brewers shifted their focus. But nostalgia for XXX never really died. It was light, sunny, and simple, the beer equivalent of good banter with mates after work. Even now, the sight of that gold can bring a smile. But as one license expired, a homegrown brew was about to take a swing at national pride. 2. GB Lager. Whitbread brewed GB Lager at the turn of the millennium to fill a gap they thought Britain needed. A proudly British lager with humour and heritage. Marketed as the Get Brewing Company and boasting a cheeky patriotic tone, it tried hard to win over drinkers. The beer itself was perfectly fine, 4.4% smooth and clean, but the campaign felt too staged, too forced. In a post-men behaving badly world, the laddish humour missed its mark. Still, GB Lager holds a curious charm in hindsight. It represents that moment when big breweries tried to bottle national identity and couldn't quite get it right. When Whitbread sold its brewing arm to Interbrew, GB Lager was gone in a flash. Today, it's remembered fondly as a what could have been pint, and while GB faded fast, another Carling creation was about to win fans through sheer smoothness. 1. Carling Premier. Carling Premier was lager with polish. Launched in 1994 alongside Carling's football sponsorship, it became the pint of the Premiership era. Nitro infused for that creamy finish, it poured like a dream, smooth, elegant, and unmistakably premium. Football fans adored it, not just for the name, but for the ritual, waiting for it to settle, admiring that silky head. It was Carling's boldest move yet. A lager that felt luxurious without the price tag. For years it held a quiet cult following until its packaged form was scrapped in 2024. Only a handful of pubs still pour it, but its legend lingers. For many, Carling Premier wasn't just a pint, it was the taste of a time when football, beer and Britain all felt full of promise. Which of these 20 do you miss the most to this day? Let us know in the comments below. If you learnt something new today, make sure to subscribe to my channel. See you in the next one.